Hello everyone and welcome to Winter 89 Colors. And we're back, and today I am going to show you how I do a really simple page. I've chosen Matchstick Mouse Summer and these adorable little snails, and so we're going to be doing this using Ohuhu alcohol markers as the base, and then a very simple and light shading using Polychromos pencils over top. So just a little disclaimer here, because of the way my camera was positioned, I have a really hard time showing the color name and numbers of the alcohol markers on the camera, so I've put everything up on the screen for you in the bottom left hand corner, so hopefully that's helpful. But yeah, so let's get started. So here I am using the brush tip, and I'm just making sure that for those of you who are unfamiliar with how to use alcohol markers, your best bet is to always make sure that the ink continues to move. Make sure it never stops moving, because that's how you make sure you don't get any lines and that the color remains consistent throughout your entire project. If you allow anything to dry and then go back over it, it will layer. So you have to make sure that everything stays wet until you are finished. You can see that there's some spots here where I'm getting dangerously close to allowing lines to happen, but it doesn't quite get there. So that's the one nice thing about doing this on Amazon paper, is that it does tend to soak up a lot of the ink, so it stays wet just a little bit longer. Sometimes with high quality paper, it kind of sits on the surface, so it dries fairly quickly, so you have to work even faster. But I find on Amazon paper it's not quite so bad, even if it is a bit of a waste of your pigment. So I've chosen a blue-gray for the sky here, since it is raining in this scene. I don't want to make it look too dreary, as of course Matchstick Mouse is the cutest thing ever to exist realistically. So it's very nice to be able to make it a nice fun picture, but I mean, being that it's a rainy day, I did decide to go with some gloomy colors just to go along and make it a little bit realistic here. So don't worry, there will be a pop of color or two here and there. I'll do what I can. So I decided to do this in voiceover so that I didn't have to worry about starting and stopping the recording as I was coloring, because you never know how long it's going to take you to actually color something. So, you know, the risk of being interrupted is really high. So I decided to just record my coloring, and then I can just, you know, blank out all of the sounds that are going on around me, pause it when I need to, and you'll never notice the interruptions. And then I can save the voiceover for a time when I know I won't be interrupted, because I know exactly how long the voiceover is going to be. So I can actually appointment myself for that. So it is currently nice and early in the morning, and I am excited to be here with you guys. So we're just about finished with the sky here. And yes, we are now moving on to dark brown, and we're going to say that we're sitting in a bit of a mud puddle here. I debated back and forth as to whether this was going to be an actual puddle that he's sitting in, or just some mud or dirt. And I thought, you know, it'd be really weird for him to be sitting literally in the middle of a puddle. So I decided it was just going to be some wet dirt that she's sitting in there. Pardon me, she. I know she's a she. So I realized in looking back on this that I made a bit of a little boo-boo in the way that I colored this. So you'll see these little sticky uppy things around the mud puddle that I kind of work my way around, right like here. See, I'm working around these little streaks, because I thought that they were little blades of grass. I think in hindsight they were actually raindrops, but it works as grass too. Whatever, it doesn't matter. So I used Petit Pois GY8 to do the surrounding grass. Again, I'm going with these dark muted colors in order to, you know, try and create that gloomy glow of a rainy summer day. And I'm picturing this as being one of our Canadian summers where, you know, the rain lasts for 3 or 4 days in a row, so it's quite muddy, it's quite gloomy. Everything's soaked up, all the water, and everything's very rich. So earth tones in very rich, deep colors is kind of what I stuck with. So I hope you all are having a really good day, and I want you to make sure that you comment down below. Of course, like this video, but make sure that you're commenting down below anything else and how you like this video and how you like this style of video. If this is what you know, the way you kind of like it. I mean, again, I'm limited with my options because I do have lots of roommates, and so there's lots of unpredictable back and forth happening all the time in my house. So it's hard for me to get the time to be able to do this in other ways if you want color alongs. Again, I'm going to be honest with you, I have no idea how to put music in a video at this point. I don't know where you get copyright free music or how you download it. I'm completely self-taught in the editing, so I have no idea how to go about that. So that's why I prefer doing Chatty or voiceovers, because just leaving a silent video seems a little weird, but again, you can always put your own background music on if you want to a silent video. So let me know if you like those silent videos. I've done one or two before in the past, so. All right, so just about finished up with the base grass here. So the next few colors are all just going to be, you know, greens and things for the background, and doing the bushes and everything else. I was a little bit hesitant to do this color green for these bushes because I was worried, because I'm doing such yellow greens for the foreground that in the background. But then I thought, you know what, the sky is really cool colored and blue undertones. So I thought if we do the whole background in those cool tones, then it won't be so bad. You'll have to let me know what you think of me mixing these cool and warm tones in the same picture, and if you think it clashes or if you think it looks okay. I can hear my rabbit chewing in the background. I think she might have a bit of a UTI, the poor thing. She's been peeing on things, and it's been very unfortunate. And, you know, at first I thought she was angry, but now I'm starting to realize I think she's sick. So one of my roommates works at a pet store, and she got me some stuff called colloidal silver, which is supposed to be a natural sort of antibacterial stuff, and we've given it to her before when she's had UTIs, and that seems to help quite a lot. So I gave her some this morning. She's very bad at taking it, I'm going to be honest. It's a liquid, and we give it to her with a syringe in the mouth, but it's very hard because her mouth is so tiny to get it in there, and she just spits it out. So I try to get as much of it into her throat as possible, but it's impossible to tell how much of it she's actually ingesting. So I'm going to give it to her a couple times a day and see, and hopefully she starts feeling better. But yeah, poor Bunny. She's quite unwell at the moment. I tried to stick with the same family of greens, or at least close to the same family of greens for the foreground here, with all these leaves and grass and things like that, just to make things cohesive as much as possible. And it also helps to separate the background from the foreground if I keep sort of these warm light greens in the front and then those cool blue greens in the background. I feel like that kind of gives it some depth a little bit. Not gonna lie, by the time we finished this picture, I was a little bit disappointed with how little color came into it, but at the same time, I mean, I guess if we're going for natural colors and we want it to look realistic, then you don't have much choice other than to, you know, make it a little on the duller side. That doesn't take away from the fact that it's adorable, obviously. Very cute little picture. I love snails so much. I love snail season. When you go outside, you see them everywhere. Oh, I have to spend so much time going and picking them up off the sidewalk and putting them back on the plants because I'm so scared somebody's going to be less caring and come along and step on the poor little things. So I just love them. I think they're so cute with their little googly eyes, and oh, adorable. We had a giant snail for a while in my house. Again, my friend who works at the pet store had one, and it was really cute. Big old snail. I mean, the bigger the snail gets, the more clumsy it gets, I think, because, you know, they're not the most graceful creatures to begin with, but this big one had so much weight to haul around. What do you do with all that, right? And that big shell on its back? My goodness. Getting close to the end of doing all the plant life and background stuff here. We're soon getting into the fun stuff. Um, Here's where I add a little bit of depth using the markers. I tend to go back and forth with my alcohol markers as to whether I do my shading and my depth and all that kind of stuff with the markers themselves, or if I do it with pencils over top. Sorry, I'm a little out of frame here. I'm still getting used to filming, and I don't have an actual camera. I'm filming on my phone, so and I don't have a good stand. I'm using a really cheap stand. My setup is very budget friendly, let me tell you that. So I don't always notice when I'm getting out of frame. I try my best to pull it together, but yeah, you can see here where those raindrops are supposed to be. I'm making them grass, but I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, it's a mistake, but I don't think by the time it's done, you'll really notice the difference, you know? I didn't until I started playing this back and editing it, that I had messed that up, but that's okay. All right, this is about the end of it, so what are we working on next? Ah, yes, so now we're moving on to the mouse herself. So again, the color choices that I made with this, I mean, I like the colors. It's just I wish I had gone a little bit lighter on her belly and face, just to create a little bit more contrast. But again, it kind of helps necessitate or allow the darkness to come through. The gloominess of the day kind of shows through a lot with her colors being a little bit less contrasted. So I'm not too mad about that, to be honest. So that's all right. The nice thing about the alcohol markers, I find, is that it makes for a really good cartoon effect when you're having to blend. You know, like here the belly versus the back and fur. You don't have to put a nice dark line in there. You can really create a nice line of its own, and it looks very clean. So the alcohol markers are so versatile that way. It's a shame so many artists have to conserve their paper and put not just one page at a time. They have to do back to back, and that ruins our chances at using alcohol markers more. But that's okay. We get we take the chances where we get them, right? Yeah. See, I made this choice to do this yellow gray for. I was hoping it would be a little bit lighter. Now, when it dries a little bit lighter still, but it's still not quite as much. I would have liked an even lighter creamy color. Kind of like the Prismacolor cream. You know what I'm talking about? Like a very, very, very ridiculously pale yellow would have been my ideal, but it still works out this way. So we're just working around these little snails, doing all this fun stuff. The alcohol marker part of this is so simple and so relaxing. It's easy to get lost in it when you're in the middle of it. Just put on some background music or some ASMR, nature sounds, whatever it is that makes you comfortable, and just get lost in the picture realistically. So this picture, as you can see by the video, this picture took me, the video itself is like less than 40 minutes long. So realistically, that's how long it took me to actually color the picture. However, the raw footage was just over an hour. Now that's mostly because I was sitting there humming and hawing between colors, and I just edited all that out, I have to sit there and decide my colors. I kind of decide them on the fly. I have a really hard time deciding my colors beforehand. I mean, I might pick out a couple in between, or beforehand, but generally I kind of go from color to color, just deciding what I'll do as I go. I have a mixture of being able to see and picture the end result, but also sometimes I can't. So it really depends on the day. Almost every Matchstick mouse picture I've ever done, I did do the worm in the exact same alcohol marker. For some reason, I love that color, the natural lipstick color for Little Wormy in the Matchstick mouse books. It looks so perfect. This is I don't, some people go through their mouse or Matchstick mouse books and color the mouse the exact same color every time. I don't feel the need to do that. I know she's the same and she's kind of telling a story, but I kind of like to vary it sometimes. I tend to stick to browns because, you know, every mouse that I see, wild mice in particular, tend to be like a brownish gray color, closer to the brown color, at least where I live. So that's what I default to, but I'm gonna try to vary it up sometimes and do different colors as I go. The hat, I seem to always do different colors. I tend to lean towards brown because I don't know, it just reminds me of like a canvas kind of material, but like I said, I wanted a pop of color, so in this one in particular, I made it, you know, a light purple. Antique fuchsia, if you will. Alcohol marker is almost done. We're just finishing up these little snaily whalies. I've got more story time for you, but I want to wait until we move into the pencils. That way I can kind of start fresh and not have to stop and start when we change up our materials and all that kind of stuff. So I'm really glad that this is a very small picture because I don't have to worry so much about getting out of frame. I only have really tiny little bits that get out of frame occasionally. So that's nice. You get the main idea at least. And down here what you can't see is I'm just doing the green gray in the little rocks down there. So you're not missing much. And that's just, I'm coloring, there's a stick on the ground over there, so I'm just using this color to base that stick. See, I'm having a hard time getting my camera to focus on the color names. It was kind of annoying when I was editing and putting in the colors for you in the bottom corner because I was having a really hard time seeing what colors I had used, so I wish I had maybe written them down on the side, but either way, we got through it, so it's not a big deal. All right, now we're moving into Polychromos pencils for our light shading. I'm only going to be doing one layer of shading using one colored pencil per section. I want to show you that you can achieve decent shading with very limited work. You know, like it doesn't have to be fancy, especially when you based with alcohol marker. All you have to do is add just that little bit of shadow. I remembered to reposition. Look at me go. So yeah, I'm just thinking of, you know, there's going to be very little shadow because there's very little sun, right? So it doesn't have to be this deep, dark contrast of shadow either. So that's another reason that doing a picture like this, you can make your shadowing very subtle because in real life, without the sun, there would be very little shadowing to begin with. So with the leaves, I like to try and look at how the artist has drawn them in order to pick where my shading is. So as you can see, he's kind of made the top of that leaf very, very round on the outside, so that feels like the center of the leaf is sinking down into itself. So that's why I start my shading there and then lighten it off towards the edges. And then it looks like the leaf pours down after it loops up from the center and out in a heart shape. So that's why I then go down and do the very tips of the edges of the leaves just to create that look, that heart-shaped look. So yeah, as many of you know, I've been, you know, struggling with some mental health issues and, you know, been going through a lot. I just got out of the hospital last week and all that kind of stuff. But I did get a call today from the Concurrent Disorders program in my local health unit and hospital. And so I have been accepted into that program. So soon I will be getting an appointment with them and talking to them, and it's going to be good, I think. I think that's going to be a great way to get me started on healing. So that's very exciting. A lot of you have been very kind and reached out to me and talked about your own disorders and problems and mental health issues, and I really appreciate everybody that wants to talk to me. Feel free to comment about it. Feel free to message me on Instagram. Let me know. You can email me. All this will be in the description box below. I'm doing the same thing on these leaves as I was doing in the other leaves, and in here it's very pronounced because these leaves really sink down, and you can see that the front part of that leaf is a little bit higher than the back part, so I can create that darkest shadow right behind where that snail is. I ended up picking kind of the same color for almost all of the shading in this because, again, I wanted that dull, earthy, hazy look. So I ended up picking the olive green yellowish for a lot of the shading in this picture in particular. It's a color I use quite a lot, actually, because it's so earthy and brownish. It kind of really gives a natural look to leaves and stuff. As much as it's fun making things really bright and colorful, you know, sometimes I just crave that realism that comes with these earthy, browny, quote unquote, ugly tones. It's nice that Morgan gives us just a little bit of help with the shading. He just does a little bit of cross hatching in those areas where you know, you can see that it's underneath somewhere. It just gives us a little bit extra guidance, even though, you know, over time you begin to learn how to see where your shadows should be. It's nice when the artist gives you a little bit of help with it and gives you some pointers as to where your light source is supposed to be. And don't fret if you're looking at your picture and there isn't a hint as to where the light source is supposed to be, and you're struggling to see your light source. It's something that comes with time, I find. Over time, the more you do it, the less you have to think about it. You just kind of automatically start searching for it, and your eyes will see it when you're ready to see it. And sometimes in a scene like this, for example, there isn't really a clear light source because, again, there's no lights, there's no sun. It's a rainy, gloomy day, so you kind of have to just go with gravity. Is kind of what you lean towards. And again, this is all kind of something that becomes intuitive over time. The shading is pretty minimal on all these grassy areas, and I mean, is it highly effective? Not really. You can't see it that well as things are going, but it makes me feel better to make sure that I'm, you know, adding that tiny bit of depth. Especially when you look at pictures from afar, I find even adding that little bit of depth can change how the picture looks. Even just minimally, your eyes catch it without you even noticing. I love the amount of Morgan O'Brien books I've been able to get. Because they're so inexpensive, luckily, I've been able to collect them. They're an easy thing for me to get. You know, when I do have a few dollars, you know, I can always reach out and grab a new Morgan O'Brien book because they're so budget friendly. Now, I could save up a bunch of money and get more expensive books, but I mean, sometimes you just want that instant gratification of being able to click the buy button, you know? And I don't have a printer, so I have a hard time buying PDFs because I have to go and have them printed somewhere, which is also annoyingly expensive. So I end up just finding that I've gotten used to Amazon paper, so buying physical books is easier for me. Do a little bit of shading on these little rocks here. I mean, again, such silly little details that probably nobody would ever notice if you didn't do it, but sometimes it just helps to make the picture just look that much more complete. For a while, I was really obsessed with my polychromos and Albert Duers. When I first got them, for 6 months, I was just all over the moon about them, and it's all I used. I had such a hard time using my Prismacolors. Now I seem to be leaning back into the opposite sphere. Lately I've been having a really hard time using, at least on certain papers and stuff, my polychromos and Albert Duers. And I find myself leaning back into my Prismacolors. And I'm sure that this will go back and forth probably forever because I love both. It just really depends on the situation as to which one is better for me to use. For example, I've been working in the Alien Worlds group run by Candace at Happy Catastrophe, and I've been stuck on the same page forever. It's a big double-page spread in front of the Lost Paradise, the first planet, and I've been sitting on that for months. I based it with Albert Duers and soft pastel, and then I went in with my polychromos and Prismacolors to kind of get things moving. I used my Prismacolors because I wanted to do all the rocks a dark gray, almost black, and I felt like the best pencils to do that with would be the Prismacolors because they have such a wide variety of grays. So I did that in Prismacolor, but then I did all the rest that I worked on at the time, the trees and the grass and everything. I did that all in Albert Durer and Polychromos. And I was trying to do all the details in Polychromos, and I found myself stuck, and I stopped working on it, and I left it for a long time. But then last night I was looking at it, and I was like, why do I feel like I need to have to do this in Polychromos? Maybe if I go back to Prismacolor, I'll be able to get more done. And I did. I pulled out my Prismas and I started working on it. And now I only have a few elements left. I got all of the plant life, vegetation, background. That's all done now. And all I have left to do is the 3 creature animal things that are in there, the solar giant and the 2 other animals, and then plus the clouds. So it's almost done, and I can almost move forward with this book. It has been so long. I was one of the original members of the Alien Worlds group, and now I haven't participated in like a month, 2 months, something like that. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to post this soon and get it done. So this color was a choice. It didn't turn out the way I like. It's almost highlighty as opposed to shadowy, but I mean, I guess it gets the point across. Once I had done it, I was like, maybe this wasn't the best choice for this, but I also didn't want to put like a really dark color in there either. So I think if I had to go back, I would probably not choose that color, but that's okay. Cinnamon worked out really well for this, so that's nice. I enjoyed that combo, the R19 plus the cinnamon from Polychromos. I think that's a really nice match for the mouse's tail and feet, ears. You know, I think that worked out pretty well. So you can see, you know, my desk is a little shaky, and that's okay. It is what it is. Again, we're dealing with budget things. The desk is beautiful, and I love it. I absolutely do, but it is on kind of stilts, so it doesn't. It does shake just a little bit if I'm working on it heavily. So don't mind that. I do apologize. It's all the best. At least it's not the camera that's moving, because I find that if the camera is moving, that makes people feel seasick. If the table's moving, it doesn't seem to affect them quite as much, so that's good. Gotta shade these little snails now. Oh, they're so tiny. I wish they were big enough that I could put like little eyeballs on them and little mouths, but they're so tiny it would be kind of pointless. So I just did a little bit of shading here and there on their little tails. So I do have another color along filmed. At least the first half of it is filmed, and it is an unusual one for me. It is a portrait. I don't normally do portraits, but I thought I would give this one a try. I have a Creative Heaven magazine that I picked up at the bookstore, and it is, you know, it's going really well for me. I haven't touched the skin yet, so that's going to be an experiment. I'm still learning how to do skin. And I may base it with alcohol markers. So far I've done just straight Prismacolors for the clothing and everything, and that's gone really well, but I think for the skin, in order to get it really smooth and even, I might base it with alcohol markers. So we will see, but that'll be in part 2. Part 1 is filmed, and then I'm going to do voiceover for part 1, but not through the whole thing. It's like an hour and a half long. There's no way I could voice over that entire thing, so I will see if I can figure out how to put music in. If not, it'll just be silent, and you guys can just put your own music in. Just have something playing in the background. I'm trying to get more filming out to you guys. I'm trying really hard to make sure that I now that I've got time on my hands, because I'm not working, I'm going to try to get more content out to you guys. I'm going to try to film more of what I'm coloring, do more, whip-in chats, just, things that, so you can see my process. I've really struggled to film my process in the past because I always feel like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to mess it up. But, like, realistically, you end up seeing the final end of it anyways. So, like, why not film the process? And you can see where I mess up, and you can see how I have to correct things, or what my process is. And plus, you can edit out any of the dumb stuff, when I'm sitting there humming and hawing about my color choices and all that. I can just pull that out for you guys. You don't have to see that, but if you guys do want to see, a video of anything else, if you want me to show you kind of how my mind works when I'm picking colors, or if you want to hear anything more about techniques you've seen me do, please do let me know. I'm happy to try and show you as much as I can. My brain works in mysterious ways sometimes, but it is here for you if you need it. If you like the way that I do things, great. I know I'm not the fanciest colorist on the planet. I'm not using hundreds of layers generally. I'm not, making things look hyper realistic, but I'm not an artist, I'm a colorist. I like to just fill in the color and then just create just enough depth that it's not just flat 2D, but I also don't feel the need to make it so realistic that it looks like it's jumping off the page. That's not my forte. And I think everybody should be happy with what makes them happy when it comes to coloring. Stressing over the fact that it doesn't look like Chris Chang's work, if you've seen her work is just absolutely stunning. Even Shell from Shell's Coloring Journey and Karen from My Colorful Country Life, the work that they do is so brilliant. And I aspire one day, I dream of being that good, but realistically, I don't know if I can be. I don't know if that's my style. I feel like my style's a little simpler, a little bit more cartoony, I suppose. I don't know if I could ever reach those heights because I just don't know if it's me. And again, Shelley and Karen both have very distinct styles that are different from each other. They both have that same level of realism, I feel like, but in completely different ways. And I think that's really cool, the fact that they can both be so popular and so talented but still have completely unique styles. I think that's just amazing, and they're both inspirations for me. So we're on the home stretch now. I'm pulling out an Ohuhu glitter marker. This one is the blue base with green glitter, or turquoise glitter, should I say. And I'm just adding that little pop of color and sparkle by lining these little raindrops. Couldn't have a page with no sparkle. That would just be atrocious. We can't live with that, can we? I can't anyway. I think that doing sparkle is very important. It gives me that creative outlet, and it gives me the ability to, once again, take the realism down a little bit. I'm not here for realism, I'm here for fun. So accents is all we have left. So again, after we get through this glitter marker situation, there's only one little accent left, and you're going to see it's, again, a unique thing that I've learned. Anybody who's tried these Ohuhu glitter markers, let me know. Like, do you ever have any problems with them? I find that they work really, really well. Sometimes you have to, like, really shake them or, like, clean the nibs a little bit, but honestly, I haven't really had any major problems with them. I find them quite good. The range of colors in them is okay. Again, sometimes I wish that glitter marker and gel pen people would make them so that they are the same color glitter as the base, so that it's, more pure and not that sort of distant, like, blue and green together. I'd prefer if it was just kind of the same color, if you know what I mean. But still very beautiful, and a large selection of colors. There's 12 of them, so that's nice. So what you can't see that I'm doing here is I'm using my jelly roll to create a little trail that our snail leaves down here at the bottom on the ground. There we go. I'm kind of going to redo it here so you can see it. Yeah, and when you reflect it in the light, you can really see that it looks like he's left slime everywhere. And finally, I'm going to do his eyes. So I'm taking clear nail polish. I told you in the last video that I like to use nail polish on Amazon paper instead of glossy accents or anything like, or acrylic paint, because nail polish is not water-based, so it doesn't harm the paper. You can put it on, although it's an expensive option, realistically, you can put it on and it does not upset the paper. It doesn't create that crinkling, wrinkling, it doesn't soak it. It just sits on top, and then once it's dry, it leaves that nice, clear shine. You'll see I've left a little circle in the center, and that's so that I can put a little white dot for shine. I forgot to film that for you because I had to wait for it to dry before I could do that. But you'll see it in the finished photo either on my Instagram or in the thumbnail. Well, thanks for joining me, everybody, and thanks for listening to me ramble on. I hope you enjoyed this video. Remember to like, subscribe, and share the video if you want to. As always, enjoy the rest of your day, and I hope that you find some joy in your coloring. Toodaloo!